Poetry Night is a beautiful thing to witness, so thank you all for coming. My name is Courtney Terry. I work at the Public Library here in McMinnville, and we partner every month on the first Thursday at 6 p.m. with Dan and Nancy, owners of the gallery at 10 Oaks, to hold these poetry nights. So we will have the presentation isn't a good word, but there's visual aids that will go along with it by the writers, followed by an open poetry night from audience members and anyone else. I will just say very quickly for an additional later this month on February 15th, which actually I'm just gonna jump on my soapbox really quick. It's the day after Oregon's birthday. I'm starting this thing where we don't celebrate Valentine's Day, and instead we celebrate Oregon's birthday, which is also on February 14th. So I will say, on Thursday, February 15th, the day after Oregon's birthday, we will be having an event here at the gallery. We call it our Paintings to Poems. And we invite anyone interested to come to the gallery. We give you about an hour or so to wander around, find a work of art that inspires you, and then write a poem about it really fast. Okay, well, you have an hour. And then afterwards, you share your poem. We've done this a few times already, and it's always amazing to see after you've written your poem and shared it with us, we collect all the poems and then print them and post them up next to the work of art that they were inspired by. And we found that work of art, that poem lives with that work of art. If the work of art is sold, the poem goes home with it. We've had a lot of amazing experiences where the artist of the work gets to actually meet the poet who wrote a poem about their art, and they create a really amazing connection that way. It's a lot of fun. You can also cheat if you want to come in a little before the Paintings to Poem, maybe scout out something, get a couple ideas going. It's fine, Bob.
I've heard they're very nice about it. They'll actually let you sit by the painting and write.
Yes. I mean, there are definitely worse places to spend a few hours other than this beautiful gallery. So that's coming up, as I said, February 15th, the day after Oregon's birthday, here in the evening starting at 6 o'clock. And that's all that I have. We're very excited to have Diane, Eleanor, and Joel tonight sharing their book, Never Solitary. It was a collaborative effort and with a beautiful result. And I will leave the rest of the introducing to Diane. So thank you all so much for coming. And after this, I will be back. And whoever would like to read for the open mic, we're a little loosey-goosey with it. So it's a hands raised and I call on you and you come up and read type of scenario. So thank you.
Thank you everybody for allowing us this time to share this book with you. Thank you for the gallery for opening up this beautiful space for Poetry Night, and to the library. My goodness, this once a month is fabulous. Do you know how lucky you are? This is fabulous. As she said, this book is a collaboration between myself, I am the author, and the author of the prayers, and well-known poet ELEANOR who is sitting right here, and she's authored many poetry books. One of my favorite, of course, is No Constant Hues. She's been involved in lots of local and international societies and organizations, and she'll be up here in just half a second after I shut up and sit down. Also, professional photographer Joel Zach, who has and is showing in galleries throughout California and Oregon. And you will see his art throughout this beautiful gallery also. And you can also see his stuff at zjimages.com. Tonight we are projecting this because this book is made up of three things is the poetry, the prayers, and of course the beautiful imagery. And it's all integral part. We will be reading the poetry, and Joel will project the corresponding images to it. Just a little history on what's going on. The idea for this book has been in my head for many years, maybe about 5 years, but the layout for it only took me a couple of days as I was trying to figure out how to involve and how to include the reader in the book and to get across the vision for it. But then I realized that it wasn't just me. It was a conversation, it was a three-way conversation between myself and between the beautiful world that we live in, the colors, and what I call the language of the land. It's a beautiful melodic language, it's a poetry. And so I said, that's it. There's my book, there's the layout. There. Now I've been asked many times, why I would put my poetry out there for everybody to read. Anybody can read it. And the answer to me is very simple. It is service. Every time that I have had a life-changing experience is because somebody has opened up their heart. They've gotten real, they've talked about an experience or something they've had or they are having. And that gesture to me has allowed me to open up and to see a better me. So that's basically the reason behind this book and the intent. So that is the intent of this book, is to maybe at some point somebody reads, somebody look at the colors, to be inspired, to open up and to go deeper. That's my introduction, Eleanor.
Okay, hello everybody. Well, when Diane told me she was planning to put together a book of her prayers, and told me that she would like to have them accompanied by poems of mine, I was initially thrilled, but I was also a little taken aback and a little worried, because I don't pray, and I don't have any sense of a divine being beyond or even within the earth whom I might address. So I wasn't sure that my poetry could fit in a book of prayers. And somewhat uneasily, as Diane will recall, I expressed my doubts to her. And she reassured me that that would be no obstacle. So I was relieved, and I went and read the prayers that she proposed to put in the book. And when I did so, I was struck with the sense that they come from the same sorts of places that poems come from. They come from crisis, they come from change, they come from loss, and the emotions engendered by those, the fear, the hope, the grief, the joy. For me, those occasions lead me to try to make something out of language that, through its sound, its rhythm, its imagery, and the visual text, the text on the page, will embody that state of thought and feeling and be a vehicle to convey it to someone else. So, as I went on reading the prayers, they made me think of particular poems of mine that seemed to have come from the same kind of place. So I went through and put together some possible pairings, and once I pared down the pairings, I sent them to Diane to see whether they resonated for her too. And it was a very good sign for our collaboration that yes, they did. So that was the beginning of what was a fairly long drawn work. The actual final layout wasn't all that quick. It took a lot of work, especially on Joel's part, who was very patiently responsive to some very particular feedback. Long-suffering Joel here. So we had the prayers, we had the poems, and Joel's photographs are a very important third element. As I've been thinking about the page spreads in the book, it seems to me that each one is a chord, and the prayer, the poem, the visual image are the notes, and each one changes how the others are perceived. In a further sign of successful collaboration, when I went through the book and thought about what we should perform tonight, sent what I had come up with to Diane, she said, I've been doing the same thing today, and I came up with exactly the same choice. So that's what you'll hear from us tonight. Diane will read a prayer, I will read the accompanying poem, and Joel will be projecting the accompanying image.
This prayer is when I turned 60.
So young.
Hi God, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you've helped me with. You and I have been through some times. I turned 60 soon, and most of me is looking forward to it, and some of me not so much. Maybe I shouldn't say this to God, but damn, I've had some fun. Rough times too, but the older I get, the more settled I am, and really okay with all of it. I'm really okay with me. So thanks for being there with me. Want to hang around for another 35 years? Could be fun. Love.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm helping this nice lady. I overhear the clerk say to her co-worker, and I realize with a start, she means me. Now that I no longer appear, though I still feel young, unsure, aflame, I'm taken for this nice lady. Youth praises age as humans praise animals for imperfect imitations of human behavior. I don't want to be praised by the young for attitudes that haven't ossified. I want it to be taken for granted that my mind is limber. I don't want anyone to assume that I'm fully domesticated. I want to be taken for an active volcano, which might, at any moment, erupt.
This prayer is about changing life, change in my life. Hello, God. I've got a problem. I need more time in my life, for my life. I know where I want to go and what I want to do. I'm breaking through walls and it terrifies me. How can I feel so strong, so confident in a choice and terrified at the same time? I don't want to give it up this time. I don't want to listen to all the negative voices in my head. I need help, God. I need your love and strength, please. I need to feel you with me on this. Thank you again.
This one is formatted as prose, and you'll hear 2 points of view in it. A third-person point of view, a first-person point of view on the same experience. And it also has a little epigraph, a little quote to set it off. Path, and here's the epigraph. It's evident the art of losing's not too hard to master. Though it may look like, say it, like disaster. Elizabeth Bishop. It was as if she had been walking down a long path toward an opening in the trees, and the path had simply vanished. She kept walking, but with no assurance that she was still heading in the same direction. She could no longer discern or even envision the clearing, couldn't tell what else there might be to head toward, in what direction it might lie, or at what distance. The image of walking along a path through a wood hardly suggests how I saw myself. I felt in the midst of a broad savanna. I was wrapped in the beauty of its tall grass, combed like a mane by the wind, in the swift changes of brightness as cloud shadows and swaths of sunlight rolled across its open slopes, in the full crowns of its oaks, their limbs free to extend themselves not only upward but outward in every direction. Then fire swept across the land, leaving a desolation, but splitting tough seed coats, enriching the soil.
This next one is about cancer, and it's mostly about dear friends of mine who have gone through a terrible time. Dear Father, today I got news. Cancer. I'm not saying this prayer out loud because I can't breathe words. I can't breathe. Could you just hold my hand while I wallow in self-pity for a bit? While I cry a bit? While I curse a bit? While I scream a lot? Mother Mary, sweet Mother, I ask for your holy love around me. Fill me, warm me, woman to woman, heart to heart, as only you can. My deepest gratitude.
This short poem is in 2 voices. You'll hear the difference. Witness. Your pain is its own room. The walls hardened glass, through which I peer, observe your restless shifting. I try to sleep, pretend to sleep, finally drift off, leaving you alone in your clear-walled room of pain. Inside these walls of hardened glass, I writhe, moan, grimace, can neither stop nor tell my pain. I see you gaze, wince, shut your eyes. No one watches with one in pain.
Hi God, I just thought about you and wanted to say hi. No questions or pleas for help. Just to chat and let you know that I'm doing fine. I feel content. All those things I thought would break me didn't. All the times I thought I'd never dig out, I did. You showed me a better way, a simpler way, a more compassionate way, and I feel peace. It feels so good, I want to share it. Who can I help today? My deepest gratitude.
Sunny morning after long rain. Little epigraph. Peace comes dropping slow. William Butler Yeats. Outside my study window, droplets sparkle and spill off the needles of Douglas firs as their loose-jointed limbs trace slow eddies of wind. The sun, after weeks of winter rain, is hot on my face, bright in my eyes. I have to pull the shade halfway down the view to see the computer screen. My words appearing on it, filling line after line, as rows of newly planted seedlings will stripe the plowed earth. Except for the steady whoosh of heated air from the floor vent, the room is quiet. On my lap, the slender cat has finally stopped treading, has settled down in a small mound of soft warmth. There's poems that sort of bookend the conversation of images, prayers, and poems. This is where gravity has brought them. Jutting out of the ground, its thin, gravelly soil, the rocks are the bones of the land, its ribs showing, hips and elbows protruding. Kicked loose by the hoofs of the cows as they lurch heavily down the slopes, the rocks are great eggs. This land, once riverbed, now lays and lays. As firs drop cone grenades on roof, deck, lawn, as maples launch fleets of twirling propellers and shining flotillas sail up from thistle heads, as blackberry canes sag with clusters of swollen purple globules. With the same wild excess, rocks tumble down the slopes, into heaps against tree trunks, into piles along the sides of steep cow paths, roll singly out across the flat pasture below. There they are, like unforeseen troubles, old sorrows, undeniable hard objects we stumble on, sometimes fall. But when we heft them, they fit our grasp, worn to hand-sized roundness by the ancient river. And when we leave them, where gravity has brought them, they startle us with beauty, dark gray against the ash gold of dry summer grass.
Before we move on to the open mic, we just wanted to open up if anyone had any questions or comments or about the creative process or anything else you've heard. We'll take a moment. Any questions? I've never been a teacher, so that kind of got a little hot at saying that. Sorry.
Will you do this again? Another book?
Yes, a second book is coming out in April.
Oh,
good.
Okay.
Wow. Any other questions? She said it was a beautiful reading. Sorry, felt the need to microphone that.
So in your collaboration, what came first? The image, the prayer, the poem, how did that work?
Well, actually, it was the prayers that started it.
Okay.
And the prayers were everything banked off the prayers. So the image was in reaction to the prayer, and so was the poetry.
Except that it wasn't like what you described. I didn't look at the prayers and in 1 hour write a poem in response to the prayer. No, it didn't work like that. I found existing poems, and I don't ever write a poem in an hour. I revise and revise and revise. So these were poems that had existed for quite a period of time.
It was, I believe there were 28 drafts by the time, 29 drafts by the time
Of the book itself.
Of the book itself, yeah.
Yeah.
So it took a little while. Eleanor said it took a little while. But
Interesting question, because I didn't read the prayers at all. I was just simply given a sort of verbal context to work within. So all during, as I was producing the book and laying it out and all of that sort of thing, it wasn't until I was probably 99% done that I actually read the poems and the prayers. So the images that were chosen were just simply in verbal context. This is what the feel is. This is what I wanted to say. This is kind of the overall concept of the intent. And I go, okay, I got it, and bam.
Well,
So-
I said to Richard, my husband, today, one thing I'm really happy about is the images never illustrate the text.
Right.
They're in conversation with it. And if now I understand something of the genesis of that, which I hadn't realized. They're in the same emotional key, but there's not literally,
Right.
which makes a much more interesting and complex harmony.
You had said that the poems had existed. Did you find that you modified them in any way to fit into the book or more, or was it just pure the poems as they were originally?
Actually, I don't think, what I did modify, and not exactly modify, was the spatial arrangement of certain
the
of
layout
them.
of it, yeah.
Instead of straight down a portrait or a mode, I had this lovely landscape mode. So I was able to step a poem across the page or arrange it in another way, which that seemed to me to be a way to enhance it. But textually, they were all. No, I never say a poem is absolutely final, but they didn't change textually for this.
Were they the original, were these photos that you had?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all
So they were,
part of the stock.
so they were pre-existing, as
Yeah.
my poems were pre-existing.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the poems, and I think they spoke for themselves, and some of them had that texture of solitude, but I think Joel really captured with his imagery that feeling of solitude, which I really enjoyed seeing.
Yeah. Very simple, simply.
And I know one thing you said was new for you was having photographs that were not presented in themselves, but behind
Right.
text.
Right.
So they were an element of layout.
Yeah. Backdrop and backdrop and support. That's it. Yeah.
But no less strong for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Okay, now we'll start out with the open mic version of our opening. Who would like to share first? I think you like me.
I think I'm attracted to
Dude. Okay. I know, if I don't get immediate volunteers, I start looking around and I'm kicking people out, so.
Sing it out.
rustle my papers here. Not so far. I think of you like the proud crackled varnish on a well-worn guitar, whose countless tunes have taken us far, a witness to how we reach for a star. Fly high as we dare to places unseen, behind the propeller of our divine machine. May be gone for now, but we'll visit again. Whenever folks gather to recall way back when. Forgetting past troubles like champagne bubbles drifting softly up and away. So that's my serious moment, and now for something lighthearted. Let's shift gears and get us up into the calendar world of February. Tomorrow marks
Groundhog Day!
I don't know if it's any state's birthdays or not, but whether it is or not, Groundhog Day is the day to celebrate.
It's an acceptable holiday.
This is actually, I wrote this about a year ago for Groundhog Day 2017. So this is an anniversary reading. Special occasion. Groundhog. So many animals serve us and help our fortunes grow, played like stacks of chips in our food chain casino. We admire our furry brothers, the feathered and scaly hordes. Their instincts seem like magic, so we seek their wisdom, sneak a peek at their cards. We set a date for the groundhog, midway between the equinox. We don't invite the robin or trouble with the frogs. Old little groundhog, forever grooving in burrows, charting new furrows. Maybe your perspective will help us all know, are we really nearly through with this year's snow? Shine a light, Mr. Marmot. Guide us to better crops. With all the frozen flakes, will they soon melt to raindrops? We could never rely on the fox or coyotes who yelp during stalks. It's too soon for ducks or young spike-horn bucks, and the geese mostly stick with their flocks. We'll overlook that you never brush or comb, and there are piles of dirt in your home. You never bother getting dressed, and farmers have declared you're a pest. Now your big day is finally at hand. Please don't run off sooner than planned. Oh, and no tunneling under the podium stand, or chewing on the mirror's hand with leaking oil from your musky gland. When it's time for your close-up, it costs 20 grand. So it's best if you're locked in a cage, you understand? Sure, you're the color of a lucky penny, forever consuming four-leaf clover. Still, why so much fuss over cousins of gophers? Why make groundhogs into media stars? So they can blow smoke rings and chomp big cigars? You've done far less than lab mice or search and rescue hounds, yet your fame on the calendar, quite frankly, astounds. Will there be a million Marmot march with flags and parades, calling for a halt to all steel tractor blades? If so, then stand proud to be heard over the crowd, and let everyone know you cannot be plowed.
Is anyone else that would like to share their poetry? Or not? Yes? Wonderful. I don't know your name, other.
My name's Dave.
Dave. Thank you, Dave.
No problem. I'm a teacher with a poetry problem. And I'm also a fly fisherman, and this is called The Sacred Dance. On the margin, the weary mage stares, transfixed by the depths, awash in cataract mist. The cacophony of river-run peace washes over him as he awaits to make his offering. Mountains of fire and fall splendor release their colors to the evening sky. Diminished to mere silhouettes, they stand sentinel over the sacred place. The universe narrows to a speck adrift on the water, and time adjusts to river flow tempo. He raises his wand, the battle ensues, the sacred dance of predator and prey. So, I also have a habit of bringing Bud Light to wine tastings. So this is a spoken word poem I'd like to share, if that's okay. A little bit different format.
Absolutely.
I need all the hands. So rub me a raw piece of poetry, emblazon it on my chest, and I will wear it proud and speak it loud, my idealized tribal crest. And it will read equality. Except I know that equality is just another name for the melting pot, a place where all the ingredients are mixed and boiled into homogeneity stew, which tastes like bad porridge, a thin, gray gruel that has removed all the textures of mountain and desert and crushed the sweetness from every religion and blanched the spice from deeper south and deeper in the soul. But it stabilizes the economy by writing revisionist history and editing America's scars with whitewashed patriotism and bland mediocrity. So ink me a new piece of poetry, tattoo it on my arm, and I will roll my sleeve up every once in a while to set its message free. Tolerance, sweet, just let it be, but to tolerate simply means not to hate, and to put up with, not to embrace, like not rubbing out something that's illegal to erase. I don't want to simply tolerate the man that looks different than me, or my neighbor who bows and prays facing east, or the one that sees my gray hair and conservative dress and sneers at me thinking, you're like all the rest, just some right-wing Bible beater promoting fine society. What do you know about a man like me? I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to be looked at differently because of the color of my skin, but I do know that you are not something to simply tolerate. And so I roll down my sleeve and hide that tattoo. So scratch me a new piece of poetry, etch it on my soul, and I will celebrate diversity. I will honor your culture and eat your cuisine and banish my own ethnocentricity. So correct me when I mispronounce your name, and share a drink with me that will soothe my overspiced tongue. And the next time you see me, look at me a little differently. I'm simply a man extending my lighter colored hand. I don't want to be the enemy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Also, so commercial break. This reminds me, we here in Yamhill County, we have an organization, the Arts Alliance of Yamhill County, and every year they put together a poetry and prose contest for all ages, for anyone who lives, works, or takes up oxygen in Yamhill County. And there's a prose and a poetry contest. Entries are due March 1st, so y'all have a month. You can submit, like as I mentioned, they have different poetry categories, I don't remember off the top of my head, and different prose categories as well. So if you're a writer, even if you may not get up and share tonight, send something in. This year, Paper Gardens, we usually have local judges that judge the poetry, and then the chosen winners get put into a chapbook that is then every participant or every chosen poem gets one, and then we have a really fun celebration at the Chemeketa Community Campus in May, in which we read. And as I mentioned, it's open to all ages, and so there's kids that are there sharing their poetry as well as adults, and it's always a really fun time. So even if you are a closet poet, please feel free to submit something. It's via the Arts Alliance of Yamhill County, and it's the Paper Gardens Writing Contest. So on your radar. Do we have anyone else that would like to share? Yeah? Yes? Okay. And yes? And oh my gosh, I pointed to like multiple people like that were in the back of the room. So Mike is making his, yeah, no, you're, and then Heidi and your friend in the back. Mike, you're first though. It's
All
fine.
right, I'll read one.
This is wonder. It's like an overabundance of poets. It's not a problem.
Hello, my name is Mike Paul. I live in Whiteson, and I've been writing them for a few years. Shameless self-promotion. I just published my own book, if anybody would like one. And they're filled with my poetry. So I've read at the Paper Gardens before. That's a great, all those kids are, I mean, I can only give it up so much for those. So anyway, I got a few here, so I think if it's all right, I'll read 2 poems tonight. Is that okay? Unless you guys hate the first one so much, then I'll leave. Okay, so here was one I call Cafe Americana. A little history about me. I'm from Wyoming, and that's where I was born and raised, and so it was like Nowheresville out there, like wide open, nothing. Then I went to California where there's 1 million people, and you're crawling all over you like ants. So I found Oregon, that's like a happy medium. So anyway, that's, my stuff is based on those times of my life, right? So. Okay, so this was a little town I was in Wyoming. It's called Cafe Americana. A small town, a main street, a 5 and dime. Hunkered down at the old-time lunch counter, on swiveling chrome seats, lined up in a row without backs. A place where the clock has an antique face that pours out the time thick and slow, like the pungent, overcooked, percolating heart attack in a cup they call coffee. Simmering on the brewer next to the Precambrian plastic pie display box, right out of an era, I'm not sure which one. Each place has a mustard, a ketchup, a menu, some shakers of pepper and salt, in no particular order or style for that matter. Bless this little enclave with multi-paint layered walls, stained by nicotine, branded by time, built before codes and modern convenience. Cracks peeking out from behind the backs of faded pictures of faces and events no one can remember. Just white noise for eyes. This gathering place for those who just want to sit and not be impressed by others' expressions, filter out the background banter, stare off into the distance, just what the doctor ordered as a prescription for shutdown. Here, the shakes and fries are cranked out for the masses. Staples of life, good anytime, with no aftertaste left. Let the brain digest. Feels comfortable, like a friend's kitchen table, where the 4 candles don't match and the floor has worn streaks across its dingy, outdated parquet pattern. Hey, someone forgot to order the future. Style sometimes takes a backseat to a burger that's timeless.
Yeah.
So then, I guess I'll read one more because it's kind of an apropos. I'm taking my 2 grandkids up snowboarding tomorrow. First time ever they've ever been up doing that kind of stuff. So they're 10 and 12. So anyway, I wrote this one here about Oregon, especially because where I'm from in Wyoming, there was always a lot of snow. And here, there's not a great amount of snow. So anyway, this is dedicated to the winter that we all wished we could have. Well, most of us maybe. Call it snowing. It's snowing, hey, it's snowing. Look out by the porch light. Floating down and swirling round, big huge flakes of white. Round here, you know, it just rains a lot. It's mighty cold tonight. It looks like maybe it might stick. Hope it snows all night. Maybe it'll get about 2 feet deep and bury everything in sight. Oh, to wake up and look outside in the early morning light. Everything has no outline, just rolling mounds of white. Laying on the tree limbs, you think they'll break? They might. This wet snow pile's mighty high, with no wind to tame its height. Just walking to the mailbox is gonna be a fight. Getting to the store or church could test a feller's might. The young'uns are excited, wound up nice and tight. To them, it's manna from heaven. They might sleep light tonight. Snowman dreams fill their heads, sleds and snowball fights. Finally, as daybreak breaks, look out the window with the light. Squinting and rubbing sleepy eyes, it's also very bright. They run up to their toy-filled lairs, donning mittens and the like, snow boots and grandma's knitted scarves to frolic in the white. Yes, it's snowing here in Yamhill, and it's going to be all right.
I like to paint and write poetry, and they call it my side hustle. So here's a couple examples from my side hustle. And the first one is called Spirit Bear, and it's my almost prayer. Spirit Bear, sometimes in my sleep you are a cub, and I hold you close. Face to face I can feel your warm breath, wet nose against my cheek. You whisper secrets in my ear, fidget in my arms, and I let you go until next time. Sometimes, in my sleep, you are full grown, and I am not fearful, though I know I should be. You keep your distance, but speak to me with an air of importance. I want to follow you, but I don't belong in your world. I want to remember what you tell me, so when I'm awake I'll understand why, but I never remember. Sometimes we run into each other accidentally, as if our dreams weren't meant to collide, and we are both startled. I want you to speak truths. I live in a world that no longer makes sense, but you don't. We pass in silence. Sometimes it is enough to know you're still there. And then, thank you. The one I'd like to read is called One Road. And before we moved to Yamhill County about 12 years ago, I lived and grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. And we passed through here kind of on accident. And over the summer I wrote this poem, One Road. There is one road that leads to the rest of your life. It will appear when it is meant to be. There is no way of knowing at the time, and that is the beauty of all roads. You may come upon it once and not again for years. You may wander down it most days of your life without intention. But there is that feeling of something small, insignificant, wildflowers and dry grass, a cluster of trees, old cottonwoods, a barn in the distance, a gesture, an act of kindness, gratitude, and it will draw you in like rain to the warm earth. The feeling of that road stays with you. A lifetime ago, a country road led us to a farm in Oregon. Passing through on a road trip to somewhere else, we picked late summer blueberries, dropped them into an old coffee can. The thick strap hung around my neck until it was full. The woman who worked the farm let us fill our water jugs, and I washed my hair by the side of that road. The middle of a long summer day. Our old Subaru station wagon waiting on the shoulder for its next adventure. Warm, soapy water running over rocks and weeds and quiet. This is the feeling of being close to something you cannot see or touch, an intimation of your own future. Wouldn't it be nice to live here? Yeah, maybe someday.
I'm Joel Staff. I will be talking about our radio show on kmuz.org, and it is broadcast every second, fourth, and fifth Fridays of the month, 9 a.m., and it is all about the artists, writers, and poets in the community. Just to give you an example of what the format is like, Aaron Stevenson with Atticus Hotel coming up has paired up with Marilyn Affolter, who you probably, for the most part, know Marilyn Affolter as a local artist, Together, they'll be on the show to talk about Atticus Hotel and the reason why Marilyn is going to be one of the selected artists to be showing at the Atticus Hotel. So that'll be a sample of one of the broadcasts coming up. And there are a variety of others that are on live second, fourth, and fifth Fridays of the month. We've been doing this now for about 7 years. There are over 120 plus broadcasts that are podcastable, downloadable, but they are live 9 a.m. From on every second, fourth, and fifth Friday. So all that to say, I'm inviting you that if you have an event, you have a publication coming up, you have whatever you've got going on with your art, your writing, your poetry, if you're interested in promoting that and talking about what you do as an artist, give me a call.
Hi, my name is Heidi Reinker, and this poem was inspired by a book called Seed of Your Soul by Zukov. There you go. And also Sunday I was introduced to a man who teaches Ki, which is a form of Chi. So it was kind of a mix of the two, and I wrote this just the other day. Mysterious One, I call on you, Grace, to share hints of truth within and without. Believe in me, Grace. May we blend in harmony. Breathe in warm Ki source. Breathe out strength and beauty. Sing to me, Grace. May we chime in melody, sing in puzzle clues, sing out answers in song. Draw with me, Grace. May we mix rainbow colors, draw in red, orange, draw it out, yellow, green. Dance with me, Grace. May we glide across soft ground, dance in acceptance, dance out joy abounds. Mysterious One, I hear and feel, Grace, teaching me to listen within and without.
Okay, thank you all for coming so much tonight. We will be here on Thursday the 15th, the day after Oregon's birthday. Thank you, this is the start of a movement, I know it. For our Paintings to Poems night, and then we'll be here next month on the first Thursday. I'm waiting for Nancy to tell me what the actual day is. I think it's the first, yeah? Okay, yes. So we will be here March 1st at 6 p.m. for our next poetry night with a to-be-announced poet and an open mic.
Did you
Yes,
see
Bob?
Lynn's acceptance letter today?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
it will be with Lynn Otto. Ott. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. So yes, we do have a featured poet. I'm obviously very well prepared and organized at all times. Next month, 6 o'clock, March 1st. Hopefully see you before. Thank you all so much for coming, for supporting our poets, photographers, and writers, for supporting the art gallery, and for supporting the public library. Please feel free